Welcome back everybody. Today I'm going to teach you how to create a snare drum, which is very good for mainstream drum and bass and dubstep. Yeah, for some other genres too, of course, but generally speaking, this type of snare is really popular on such labels like NCS and Monster Cat and, Hospital Recordings, some other big labels out there. But for some reason, it's really difficult to actually find a good tutorial that breaks down how to actually create the snare. And it took me a long time to actually, create the formula and try to make it, very efficient. So I got it, and I'm gonna share this with you, and let's go, guys. So first things first, I'm going to show you some snares that I've made with Serum, and we will break them down, and I will explain to you how to create one yourself. So this is one of the presets that I made. So let me just scroll through a couple of snares to show you what you can do. So this is just a bass. You don't really have to use it as a complete snare in your track, but you can use those to add some extra layers or maybe add some saturation and distortion and make your sound full and rich. So I'm going to show you how to synthesize a snare like this and how to place it in your mix. It's always trial and error, so it's not very easy to make a snare like that work, so I hope it works for this video, but sometimes it might take a couple of hours to make a snare sound okay. So be prepared for that. It's not a big deal. Just a couple of hours in, you can then use your snare for other tracks as well. There's nothing bad about using your snare in multiple tracks. For example, Metric made a whole album with pretty much the same snare drum. It's like the live bands, they always play the same guitars and the same drums, so there's no problem with it. Just, go ahead with your style and do it the way you like it, so no problem. We can use the analog sine wave to make a short attack. It should be way shorter than it is with the kick drum, so we will speed it up to 1/8 and apply the LFO to the level. Don't forget to select the envelope mode and to remove the randomize, otherwise your sample will always start from a different phase, and it's not something that we want. We want our snare to sound exactly the same all the time. So I'm changing BPM to match drum and bass speed. And now we have to add some noise. For noise, I usually make a small delay because I want my attack, like the sine wave, to cut through on its own. And that's why I make a small delay. I'll actually show you what's the difference by applying the LFO number 2 to the level of the noise oscillator. And I'm going to change the noise to white noise, which is the one that's easier to work with. So this is what happens when we make attack from the first millisecond. So we can barely hear the low frequencies, and that's why it's better to skip a little bit, like this. You can hear the punch cut through very well, so that's why I like it that way. Next thing I do is open filter, select high pass, and remove the A oscillator, otherwise our low frequency will be high passed, so it will be removed. Let me show you. See, there's just noise. And we have to remove it and actually put noise on it, because there's a lot of unnecessary information in the white noise. White noise is pretty much noise across all spectra, so we need to remove low frequencies like this and use cut off to select the more appropriate cut. I like how it sounds pretty good. So we need to add some extra snap by using LFO number 3. We'll make it really short and we'll apply it to the coarse pitch in the similar way that I've shown in my kick drum video. So if you want to understand what I'm doing here a little bit deeper, please go back to the video where I made the kick drum. So it will give you a little bit more in-depth about how it's done. So we go to the matrix window, find LFO number 3, there it is, and we change the coarse pitch type to unison. Okay, so that's a little bit... That's not what we want, so we need to make this sound like a really fast snap. And for that, we will change the rate to make it a lot faster. Okay, so it's kind of punchy. I kind of like it. but it's a little bit too high. So we will change the semitones by 4. Good. Now it sounds really nice, really punchy and clicky. And we will route our snare to the mixer and make it louder. You can make it louder with saturation, which is the method that I use. You can use Wave Shaper. But this only works if you're using FL Studio, but if you're using some other software, then I can only show you with external plugins. For example, you can use FabFilter Saturn, which is a really nice saturator. It works perfectly with my tracks. So I will divide it to make sure that low frequencies are not saturated. I'll put drive to 0. And all the frequencies starting from 240, which is after the fundamental frequency of our snare, we can boost the volume up and drive it a little bit. So it sounds really snappy and really clicky and a lot of high frequencies. I like it a lot. So next thing we can do, we can play around with our equalizer and see if there's some frequencies we don't like and want to remove from the snare. And of course, it's important to always remove unnecessary low frequencies. And I like to notch filter my snares sometimes, so let's see if that works. Yeah, that works pretty cool. So I remove some unnecessary frequencies, making it sound a little bit more mature, and compensate by boosting some frequencies higher. This is actually 1.2K. This is the frequency where the clap sound is located. So if you want your snare to be more clappy, you have to boost these frequencies. Now I'm going to remove some 3K. Kind of annoying for me for some reason. And see if I like it better than what I heard before I added equalizer. Yeah, I like it more because it's a little bit more like deep and it gives me the right feeling. So I will boost the sound a little bit more. The snare is really good, but I think maybe the tail is a little bit too long, but it also depends. It changes from track to track. Sometimes I like my snares to be more analog, sometimes I add elements on top of it, sometimes I just leave it like that and it works. So in this case here, I think that high frequencies are a little bit too dry, so we will add distortion. We will use the LFO number 2, and that's because this LFO actually dodges the main punch of the snare. We set the snare tail with a delay, so we will use the LFO2 to make hyper dimension effect, and we will remove this knob because it gives a lot of flanging. We will remove the size to 0 and mix to 30% or something, even less. So the snare sounds a little bit better, but now we can play around with our noise. We have white noise here, we have filter, and let's see how to make it sound a little bit better. There's some other noise layers. I like this one. Now we need to make sure there is no unnecessary stereo frequencies going on, so we will open up our fab filter, choose the mid-side channel mode, select stereo placement side. It's easier with FabFilter Pro Q3, but with the second one, this is how it works. And make sure that fundamental frequencies are in mono. Okay, now we can make our snare even wider if we want. Sounds really nice. So we turn off all the plugins. This is how it sounds. And this is how it sounds with plugins. Pretty nice, isn't it? So yeah, we can apply some layers and make it sound even better. For example, Best Service Drums Overkill is a really nice sample pack if you want to use some external not plugins, but presets to make your snare more rich. Let's see what we got here. I like this. So it's a little bit too loud. Let's not make it that loud. And let's remove some low frequencies. So we put this snare layer to a separate channel. We call it mid snare. Let's see. Removing the lows. And some highs. And make it a little bit... It's too loud, so we don't need it that loud. What a great addition. Now our snare sounds more acoustic and it's really nice. We can also... We're always free to change something in our snare. I feel like it's a little bit too snappy because in more mainstream music the snares are not that clicky. So we might adjust the click. We can adjust the volume of the click on the LFO3. Let's see. We can adjust the speed. And we can adjust the semitones to make sure that snare is deep enough and sounds, you know, powerful. Oh, this sounds really good. We can always add a little bit. If we feel like the punch is a little bit weak, we can always make it longer. Wow. Now the snare sounds, it's opened up and it sounds really nice. Wow, I like it a lot. So we can add some more layers and see if they work. You know what's really great? It's really great to use 80s style snares for extra high end because they are very unique and they give some, I don't know, it's very hard to explain, but they just work really nice. So let's see what we got here. Well, this one's pretty cool. It's rather a mid-frequency snare, but it will boost some of our mid-frequencies as well. Why not? Let's see, maybe that works. We also have to be careful. There is a lot of low end, so we have to cancel it out. A lot of high frequencies, so we don't need it to be that loud. So let's listen to those two layers together. Now let's listen to the snare. It sounds perfect, man. I like it. I like it so much. This snare is almost ready to use. I mean, depends on the context. We can save it like this. Let's try and make some drum loop with the snare. For example, like this. So I haven't changed noise to the envelope mode, so it restarts. It doesn't restart. You can hear the noise playing on its own. Listen. This is what happens when you forget to turn on the envelope. So yeah, that's why I always tell you to not forget this. Sometimes I forget it myself, but don't worry, the sound will always remind you. So the snare is really, really nice. And now we can make it a little bit louder. We can make, I will remove this from the mix. Let's see if it's punchy enough. I like it. So I can use some of my kicks. I'll use the samples that I made on my own to make a cool drum loop. See, it works really nice out of the box. Kick might be a little bit too loud, so I'll make it a little bit quieter. All right. And we add some percussion here. Like this, for example. So now, from this point on, you can work with your snare to adjust it to the type of song you're making, because it's starting to get a little bit more difficult and complicated. You need to always check with your snare and see if that's the right one for your song. If, for example, with this particular percussion line, I feel like snare is a little bit too long. So I'll go to LFO2, which is where our noise is located, and I'll make it a little bit shorter. You can always make a quick hi-hat, noisy hi-hats, just like this. Opening the noise oscillator, choosing white noise, making a sharp LFO. There we go. Ah, I forgot envelope, okay. See, it sounds pretty cool. We can use some of my drum loops on the background. Like this one, for example. If we remove the low frequencies from this one, just to make it, you know, like a... Basically, this kind of loops are needed for noise. They're not needed for separate elements. We just need to fill the space of the track with something, so... Some really nice, you know, some really nice drums for mainstream drum and bass. We can add some quick melody, which is what I'm going to do, just to finish this lesson. Okay, and we're gonna add some easy bass line. Let's see. There we go, that sounds pretty nice. Let's see how it works. So yeah, you can see that it's very easy and it just takes a lot of time to practice, and eventually you'll come up with some really nice drums. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, please follow me on Twitch. Also, I have a website called trendlibrary.eu. I'll leave the link in the description. You can purchase my samples there. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'll be happy to assist you and answer your questions in the commentary box. So yeah, let me know what is the next thing you want to see on this channel, and have a wonderful time of day. Bye bye.